Boys and girls, this week in reading, we're going to focus on a book titled What If There Were No Bees? A book about grassland ecosystems. Written by Suzanne Slade, illustrated by Carol Schwartz. Now, the reason why we chose this book this week is because it lines up to the work that we're doing in science as well. Going to be answering different questions throughout the week based on the reading of What If There Were No Bees? I also want you to keep in mind that this book is also on Mayan, so if you want to go back and reread it using Mayan, that's an option as well. Let's go ahead and get started. I'll begin reading, and then I will take time to pause after each page so I can share the picture a little bit closer with you. Don't be fooled by a bee's size. It's tiny compared to the foxes, skunks, and owls that share its grassland home. But bees do the work of giants. Bees spend countless hours darting from flower to flower to collect pollen and nectar. Grassland, plants, animals, and insects are tied to one another by food chains. Bees, as well as other living things, belong to several chains. Many food chains are connected by one plant or animal to create larger food webs. So a lot going on here in this illustration. Here we see the flowers at the bottom in which the bee visits for their nectar and collects pollen, connects to other animals, and these animals connect to each other as well. It's critical. Did you know people are part of food chains too? We are at the top of many different food chains. Flowers are a bee's best friend. They're often filled with a sweet liquid called nectar. Bees sip nectar to keep up their energy. Honeybees also use nectar to make honey. As bees collect nectar, tiny pieces of pollen stick to their furry legs. When bees visit other flowers, the pollen falls off. Flowering plants need pollen to create seeds and fruits. This process is called pollination. It's critical. Bees usually stay within 2 miles of their hive. If they can't find enough nectar, some bees will travel up to 7 miles from home. As bees fly around to collect food, they face many dangers. Spiders, birds, toads, and other hungry predators hunt these hard-working insects. Pollution and some of the pesticides farmers use to protect their crops can also hurt bees. It's critical. Since 2006, more and more honeybee colonies are dying unexpectedly. Worried beekeepers aren't sure why so many colonies are disappearing. Some people believe bee diseases, pesticides, poor eating, and stress are harming bee health. Mice often make unwelcome nests in honeybee boxes. While the mice aren't dangerous to the bees, they do damage the boxes in the bee's honeycomb. The smell of mice droppings may cause bees to leave their hive for good. What would happen if bees became extinct? Take a moment to look at the illustration here. You'll notice the illustrator has blacked out the bee. Pay attention to that in the illustrations that follow as well. If there were no bees, farmers near grasslands would have a lot of trouble growing crops. Farmers need bees, especially honeybees, to help pollinate their fruit and nut trees. Apple, cherry, plum, and avocado trees would produce less fruit, or none at all, without bees. Almond and macadamia trees would produce less too. It's critical. Sometimes a plant or animal is so important that without it, many other species become extinct. It's called a keystone species. Keystone species. Keystone species help make sure an ecosystem has many types of life in it. Bees are a keystone species. Fields of strawberry plants wouldn't be able to produce fruit. Neither would blueberry plants. Without bees, there would be fewer carrots, onions, and other vegetables. Bees are major pollinators of many fruit and vegetable crops. It's critical. Honeybees pollinate about 90 different crops in North America. They help create about 1/3 of the food we eat. Some farmers hire beekeepers to bring hives of bees to pollinate their fields. The bees stay a few weeks, then are moved to another field. Grassland flowers and other plants couldn't make seeds without bees. Flowering bushes in nearby forests couldn't grow berries for birds. Soon, many mice, squirrels, and other small animals would not have enough food to survive. It's critical. With fewer small animals, larger animals would be in trouble too. Foxes, owls, and other meat eaters would have a tough time finding food. Honeybees make honey from the nectar they collect. Bears, skunks, mice, and ants love the sweet honey. It's an important food source for them. Without honey, these animals and many others would suffer. It's critical. About 1/5 of the black bear's diet comes from honey, plus the fruits, nuts, and berries pollinated by bees. Without bees, black bears would be forced to move to new areas in search of food. Without bees, grasslands and nearby farms and forests would become quieter, less colorful places, fewer truckloads of fresh fruits and vegetables, no flowering plants blanketing the wide open fields, no bright berries or crunchy seeds for the forest animals to eat. What would happen if bees became extinct? All kinds of things. The loss of one small creature, even as small as the bee, can have a huge effect on the ecosystems of our world. Today, scientists are studying bees closely to learn how to keep them safe and healthy. Farmers are finding new ways to control pests. All this hard work should mean more bees buzzing around in the future. Take a look at the map that the author and illustrator decided to include at the end of the book. Here in the text box, it reads, bees live on every continent in the world except Antarctica, and they live in all kinds of ecosystems, including desert, tundra, and forest. This book focuses on bees in the grassland ecosystem. There's one more page that I want to share. The author decided to include a text box that reads, how to help keep our grasslands healthy. So towards the end of the week, I'm going to be asking what people can do to help the bees. So here's some ideas that are going to help. Make your yard more beautiful and provide nectar for bees at the same time by planting flowers. Be a part of National Pollinator Week the last week of June. Search for National Pollinator Week online to learn how you can celebrate and help bees, butterflies, and other pollinators. If you find a beehive or a wild bee colony, walk away slowly and leave it alone. Bees have an important job to do. They work best if they are not disturbed. And finally, find natural ways to get rid of pesky bugs in your yard by using fewer pesticides, which can harm bees and other helpful insects. You're helping all the animals around you. So that brings us to the end of What If There Were No Bees? You'll continue working and reading this week, answering questions about this book. Now, of course, you can replay this read aloud to review what you need to know, but you can also find What If There Were No Bees in Maya. Do good work in reading this week. See you guys soon.